And so on that basis, Al Franken will probably have to resign. Actually, I'm just kidding. Hi, Dan Stein. Thanks for joining us. On our Facebook Live, I'm here with R.J. Homan. You, I'm sure, all know him by now. Affairs Government Relations Director. Talk a little about what's going on here in D.C. But first, we're going to cover a couple important points that many of you want to know about while we wait for some of our other great Facebook followers to join us. A lot of people are asking, what are the basic parameters of Trump's immigration positions? You know, he campaigned, and we've broken it down here at FAIR into these twin pillars. What are those twin pillars, the 6 components of Trump's immigration position? So when you look at the twin pillars, the first pillar, which I'll cover, is about illegal immigration, which is about legal immigration. I'm sorry, the first pillar is legal immigration. If you've seen these blocks on our Twitter feed or Facebook page, you know that the first block is reducing immigration. Donald Trump, when he was in Phoenix in August of 2016, talked about reducing immigration overall. Now, the second part of that component is eliminating chain migration. Eliminating chain migration, and the RAISE Act in the Senate is a great vehicle to do that, will help bring about immigration reductions, extremely important, as well as increasing the skills composition of the flow and making immigration great again, because it now serves in a better manner the American national interest. And then the third, of course, is closing foreign labor loopholes. Those are the H-1B programs, L, B-1, and others, non-immigrant visa programs that have been abused and used to displace foreign workers. And on that score, RJ is going to tell us a little bit about the House action that happened just the other day, yesterday actually, to help close the loophole. This is a bill that Darrell Issa came up with. And while it's probably not everything we're looking for, it does have some important improvements. So, RJ, what's it do?
Yeah, well, first, the administration has taken a lot of efforts administratively to tighten up guest worker visa programs through their process that they could do through the federal agencies. However, though, the House Judiciary Committee did pass a bill out of committee yesterday called the Protect and Grow American Jobs Act, introduced by Darrell Issa, as Dan said. Now, this bill it's still a substantive victory, but it takes probably half of the approach we need. What it does is goes after these H-1B dependent employers. There's companies called Infosys, Tata, and what they do is they primarily provide H-1B workers to companies here in the United States. Now, a lot of
these are like the big users.
The big users, correct. And a lot of these companies are the ones who have provided workers to Disney, Edison. Correct, the contractor, those big layoffs that happen. So what this does is it has a mandatory wage now of $90,000 rather than it used to be right around $60,000.
That's a big bump.
That is a big bump.
That should really decrease their attractiveness.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. So it will makes it a lot less easy to replace American workers. However, we need more congressional action to go after all employers, not just these outsourcing firms, but big tech companies in the United States here, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, that still are legally able to replace their workers with foreign workers.
All right, so closing foreign labor loopholes, that's the third component of the legal immigration pillar of Trump's plan. Now let's move to illegal, and RJ, do you want to run through those three?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the first in that illegal immigration pillar, again, is obviously secure the border. President Trump ran on building a wall at the southern border. However, facing a lot of opposition in Congress. It needs to be funded. The president has authority under the 2006 Secure Fence Act to construct a wall along the southern border.
So where's the wall?
You don't need legislation to do it. You need to fund it. So in this government funding bill coming up, President Trump has requested, I believe, $1.6 billion to begin border wall construction. He's already got the prototypes erected. He can quickly select a contractor to build the wall and get going. However, again, Congress needs to fund it. Reach out to your representatives, contact them and say, do not vote for any spending bill that does not contain the president's full request to build the wall. And the second component is increasing interior enforcement. After 8 years of an administration that unilaterally dismantled all immigration enforcement, ICE agents are out there in the field. They were able to completely get rid of President Obama's priority enforcement program that made basically large swaths of illegal aliens completely immune from any type of enforcement. He reinstituted secure communities now, and ICE is out there in the field doing their job, targeting illegal aliens in sanctuary cities. And then the third component of illegal immigration is mandating E-Verify. Now,
Which is kind of a function of interior enforcement.
correct,
right?
correct. Interior enforcement in the workplace, work site enforcement. E-Verify, obviously easy to use, worker verification program. Congressman Lamar Smith has introduced the Legal Workforce Act that passed out of committee that would mandate E-Verify. And what E-Verify does, you turn off the jobs magnet. You don't incentivize people to come here illegally. People come here because they want to work. If they are unable to, they won't come here.
So I think the point here is we're making progress on all these fronts. Many people ask questions, why is it so slow making progress? Clearly not as fast as we'd like to see. But the Trump pillars, the twin pillars, lay out all the different parts of the engine that we're firing on, all the parts of the pistons, if you will, of the engine. And we certainly expect to see substantial progress in the next 18 months. What do you say, we talk a little bit about Kirstjen Nielsen, who's the nominee to run DHS, Department of Homeland Security. We talked a little bit about this before in other contexts, but a lot of concern, and starting with the wall. We all want to see the wall, but RJ, what do you think we learned at the hearing that she had last week on the confirmation?
Yeah, well, again, at the hearing...
And why does Trump pick somebody who isn't 100% behind the wall?
Yeah, obviously, again, the immigration was the issue that propelled President Trump in the office. And,
Particularly the wall.
Particularly the wall.
So where's the wall? And
So,
why do you pick a DHS nominee who doesn't support the wall?
That's why.
Does she support the wall? Yes or no?
She says she does not completely.
Not support the wall.
She touches
None
on
of the wall or some of the wall?
She might support the virtual wall.
How
She
much?
talks
How
about
much? No actual brick wall.
Correct. She talked
No
about
brick
a lot of
wall at all.
technology.
She didn't say no brick wall. She did say just not all.
Not to sea to shining
sea.
Correct. But no, the most,
Gulf of Mexico is not a sea.
Right.
Okay.
The most concerning comment of hers, though, aside from the not a full commitment to building the wall down there, was that we, when asked by Kamala Harris from California, the Democratic senator,
a big border controller, Kamala Harris,
as open borders as they get.
She was indulgent and kind.
Of course. And she asked if she'd support a DACA amnesty legislation. And Kirstjen Nielsen responded by saying, we must and we owe it to them. And the American people don't owe...
Is that before or after we built the wall?
I guess before.
Okay, so we all want to know, why does Trump send up somebody for nomination to run DHS who doesn't support the wall and appears to be wanting to give away amnesty, and apparently not in exchange for any specific bill of particulars? Now, that's not what the White House is saying, of course, but we have a DHS nominee who doesn't seem to be on board the Trump campaign positions, the administration positions. Why you nominate somebody like that? I take it she's not going to have any trouble getting confirmed because she's going to get a lot of Democrat votes.
Absolutely. She passed relatively easily.
That's very comforting.
Yeah, passed relatively easily out of committee, and she should be voted on in the next week or so.
All right, but it's not all bleak, because also the president did nominate finally someone to run Immigration Customs Enforcement. That is an agency within Department of Homeland Security, ICE, as we all call it. Thomas Homan, he's the guy who's been nominated. He's a strong immigration enforcement person, we would say. You agree with that, right?
Absolutely. You know, he's been serving in an acting capacity since January. The guy is a career ICE enforcement officer, been in there 30 years, probably has the intimate understanding of what it takes to enforce immigration law, out in the field. He's an enforcement officer's best advocate there. And what he's been doing...
We're hoping he's going to stand up to Kirstjen Nielsen.
100%.
If there's a disagreement.
Of course.
And maybe he'd have the support of General Kelly.
Of course. And what he's been doing, though, too, is by going in, he's been targeting enforcement operations in sanctuary cities. Obviously, the president's sanctuary city agenda has been, tangled up in the courts, hasn't been movement on legislation in the Senate. But what Homan has been doing is sending his officers, directing his resources to enforcing the law within sanctuary cities. And he's probably been the best person implementing
probably the best
agenda.
choice you're going to make,
of course,
right now. And,
as good as it can get.
And Bob from Illinois, we got some questions coming through. Love your questions. He's saying, hey, is ICE enforcing the law now? And we're here to tell you, yes, ICE is enforcing the law dramatically more aggressively than they were, obviously, under Obama, which, of course, that's not saying much since you were at a zero-start position there. But they are. Interior enforcement, we saw some major busts of MS-13 all across the country just yesterday, including about 35 in the state of Maryland, near where we are here in Washington, D.C., major interior enforcement. Now, on the question of interior deportations, again, going back to Kirstjen Nielsen, intimated she wants to revert to this priority criminal aliens
Right.
rather than mere illegal immigrant
Right.
or illegal alien. And that's not right.
Right.
Because that's not the law.
It's one thing to prioritize your resources, obviously going after criminals and such, but to make broad swaths of the illegal alien population, immune from any type of enforcement is nonsensical.
And I don't want Bob from Illinois to believe that everything is all hunky-dory,
Right.
because in the end, the ICE union, and including people we have a lot of respect for, the head of the ICE union, Chris Crane, they put out a statement and they have a dandy new website, kind of lays it out. Still, certainly things are better. A lot of frustration, though, among the rank and file ICE officers. These are enforcement officers in the interior. They do investigations. They do interior apprehensions. They're still saying that, they're not getting the leadership from the Trump administration they expected, and they use the term betrayal. So they obviously believe that a lot more needs to be done from the top. One of the major arguments that Chris Crane and the ICE union has said is that there are way too many Obama holdovers. Now, part of that is, of course, attributable to the slow pace of which Congress has been approving nominations. Part of that, though, has also been the slow pace of hiring in this administration. Good news is it's picking up now,
Right.
but there's no question about it. ICE is not where it ought to be this far along in the administration. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. And again, you have to look back again, 8 years of, DHS had the lowest morale of any agency in the federal government.
Yeah.
Just imagine going to your job every day, you sign up to be a law enforcement officer and you're told not to enforce the law. It obviously takes a lot to kind of reverse, those habits and the culture within ICE. But, I think we're happy with the progress of where it's going. Again, as Dan said, they're draining the swamp right now, replacing a lot of career holdovers that really aren't on board with the Trump agenda. And we expect enforcement to really ramp up as Homan, now he no longer has his acting, no longer in an acting capacity. So we really expect things to ramp up a bit.
So what do you have on your swamp platter? I have frog legs, alligator, and a couple senators, usually on my... Anyway. Yeah, Stephen from Illinois had a good question. I see that one coming across here. Stephen from Illinois. He's asking about the the additional child care tax credit, and how illegal aliens get that. And I don't know if you want to handle that or if you want to take a shot at
of
it.
course. Illegal aliens are allowed to file taxes with a thing called an ITIN, an individual tax identification number. And there's several tax credits out there, the additional child tax credit, earned income tax credit, and the American Opportunity Tax Credit that allow illegal aliens filing taxes with an ITIN to claim them. However, though, in the new GOP tax plan that was actually passed in the House yesterday, they put in language to require a work-valid Social Security number to get these tax credits. And the bill's authors, they estimated that it will save approximately $23.1 billion of your taxpayer dollars over the next decade. Huge loophole that we've been calling to close for a long time.
And I mentioned on Tucker the other day, we did not get the new idea part
Right.
in there. That's the Steve King proposal. Been around for a while. Jack Kingston first proposed it, former member of Congress.
Yep.
Would deny the tax deductibility for businesses that hire unauthorized aliens. Very important idea, great disincentive to hiring illegal labor, unauthorized labor. Couldn't get it in there, but it would have been a major tax savings and certainly would have helped finance the tax cuts. One more question here. Well, we got a few more minutes. Mary from Louisiana is asking about the top legislative priorities. What do they ought to be on immigration? Obviously we're seeing some things coming through the House. The RAISE Act in the Senate has got to be a major legislative priority, but I'll let RJ.
Yeah, well, it seems to be the one legislative priority and the one given that every congressional leader wants right now is a DACA amnesty. But when
That's not our legislative
that's
priority.
not our legislative priority, that's for sure. And honestly,
And not one DACA recipient voted for Donald
they
Trump,
did
as far
not.
as I can tell.
In fact, President Trump on the campaign trail said he would rescind DACA on his first day in office. So the fact that there's a focus on Capitol Hill to give these people an amnesty is frankly ludicrous. However, Congressman Dave Brat.
So you're talking to all these folks all over the country.
Right.
RJ, why do we go to vote? Why do we listen to politicians? They promise something quite explicit. What are we supposed to think? Here it is, a year later, he hasn't done it yet, sort of done it. Already, DHS is equivocating. Even on the date of terminating DACA, they're starting to take some renewals back in. Although they did eliminate one of the TPS categories, Nicaraguans. They haven't done anything on Hondurans, and there's several other classes. there's a lot that this administration still needs to demonstrate to show that the Trump administration is acting entirely in good faith in the promises that the president made last year. Right? But on the legislative priorities for us and for FAIR and for the nation's true immigration reformers, what are they?
Well, first, I mean, Dave Bratt, the congressman from Virginia, who defeated Eric Cantor, and almost
he's the guy who knocked out the
basically put an end to the Gang of Eight bill.
He's got the American Laws Act, right? Which contains elements of the RAISE Act.
Correct. It's a American Labor, Wages, and Sovereignty Act. Yeah, it has three components that we view are absolutely key right now. First, it ends chain migration. Second, it repeals...
Ending chain migration is key.
It's huge.
Because every time somebody comes in, they get to bring on average about 3.5 more people.
And so on and so on
on average. And it goes on just like a big chain letter. I mean, there's no way to control immigration if you don't stop chain migration. Priority number one, I don't care whether you're talking to the White House or you're talking to FAIR, this needs to be the congressional leadership's main priority. To pass DACA without stopping chain migration means that 1 million people getting amnesty translates into 4 million people ultimately coming, and then millions more on top of that. So it's like it's like a Trojan horse. You can't just do a DACA amnesty
pile-on effect
and not really deal with chain migration, something that's been called on since the late 1960s, tried repeatedly in the 1970s, 80s, 90s. The Trump administration, this has to be the time to stop chain migration.
Yeah, and then the second component of the bill, too, repeals...
On Dave Bratt's bill.
Dave Bratt's bill.
Virginia.
Repeals the outrageous visa lottery. Now, everybody saw that terrorist attack on Halloween Day in New York. A man came over here on the visa lottery from Uzbekistan. Now, the visa lottery, again, it's $50,000 a year of just names basically drawn at random out of a hat. And that does not advance the national interest at all. And also, it is a security risk as well. You look at some of the, I think it was the top 5 countries of the visa lottery of the past year. You have several state sponsors of terror on there. You know, why we should bring people from those countries over here makes, frankly, no sense. And this bill would repeal that. And then the third component of the bill, too, of long-time priority affair, again, is mandatory E-Verify. You turn off the jobs magnet, you get rid of the incentive for people to come here illegally.
From Paul Ryan, I mean, we love Dave Bratt. He's not Paul Ryan, of course, and he's not the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. Goodlatte's leaving, Lamar Smith, another important reformer, is retiring. We're all looking to see some real positive action from the House leadership in terms of what are they really going to give us if they're going to actually move something on DACA.
Well, again, that's what Congressman Bratt was attempting to do here is refocus the debate. Save Paul Ryan and other congressional Republicans from their worst inclinations, if you will, to do a DACA amnesty. Again, everything on the Hill right now seems to be centered around the DACA population, when it should be centered around these reforms.
Why are they the priority? Why do you start with DACA? Instead, it should be, let's get all the stuff Trump promised, get all that out of the way. 2019, maybe you can talk about DACA.
Right.
Trump's supposed to be a great negotiator. Why has he got this thing flipped?
The priorities are all out of whack. Again, you need to make sure the enforcement framework is in place before you even have any of those conversations. The priorities, again, all out of whack. And, FAIR has maintained a steady voice on Capitol Hill for implementing the policies that President Trump ran on and that are in the best interest of the American people.
Well, all this information, and we've covered a lot of it, you can find on FAIR's website at www.fairus.org. We always want to answer your questions. Ask us on Facebook. Ask us anywhere you want. We try to answer them as best we can. You can always email me at dstein@fairus.org, dstein@fairus.org. And if RJ wants to give you his email address, he probably won't. He'd do his best to make sure they get answered as well. RJ Hamann at fairus.org. Listen, thanks for joining us. We love talking to you. We love all your feedback. We love your comments. We read every single thing you put down on here, and we try to do this frequently, try to give you updates. Good things are happening, not as fast as we want, but thanks to your support, your help, your participation, your engagement, we're getting it done.